lowering some. That information will come out on our website and through our public information folks as well. Beyond that, the only other thing I was going to mention, we continue to have patrols up in the area, just keeping an eye on what's going on up there. And then we've gotten some reports of some possible dumping, some illegal dumping, and there are several criminal statutes related to that, so we want to be careful. And we'll be looking into those types of things. There's going to be a lot of information from the commissioners about how to take care of some of the cleanup, but just wanted to pass that on as well.
And Sheriff, you moved Detroit back from a level 3 to a level 2 and opened Detroit back up in a limited capacity, is that right?
Yes, they still have the ongoing trips in and out all the way up to Detroit and Idana while they're still cutting the trees and making that road safe again as well.
And those trips, pilot cars are guiding residents between Gates and Detroit every day. The first pilot car departs Detroit to Gates, is that right?
There's one early in the morning now from Detroit to Gates,
From Detroit
and
to
then we're
Gates.
back to that normal schedule, and then those will continue for the foreseeable future.
Okay. And so for folks that want to get back up there, they can I guess there's a car that goes up at 9 o'clock in the morning and comes back at 11. And then a car that goes up at 1 in the afternoon and comes back at 5. Is that right?
Yes. And then that early morning one is 7:30 in the morning that is going from the cities of Detroit and Idana down to Gates to let people through that area in case they need to come to the valley for the day.
And that's for folks who spent the night up there.
Correct.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yesterday, I sent a letter or an email to the governor asking the state and FEMA to assist us with cleanup of household hazardous waste. This will be done at the cost of the state and federal government. It'll be a 75%, 25% split between FEMA and the state. We'll continue to be involved in that effort, and we ask for three things. We ask that citizens not be penalized for cleaning up or hiring a qualified contractor to clean up their own property safely. We ask that the state provide an information sheet to all of our citizens, and that the state and federal cleanup will prioritize watershed areas. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we still are asking people who've been affected by this wildfire to sign up for FEMA disaster relief at disasterassistance.gov. And FEMA has now located representatives at Anthony Hall in Sublimity. So you can actually go and speak to someone who works for FEMA, and they can walk you through that process and get you any assistance that's available to you. So with that, I'll let you have it.
I will. Chair Willis just kind of got over the subject about debris management. It's something the county's working very hard on now. I'm going to have to ask a little patience, and I'll tell you why before we get through. This two-part program the commissioner was talking about, one has, and I mentioned last week too, has FEMA coming through and taking care of household hazardous waste, and then Corps of Engineers coming doing the final real ash and foundation and cleanup of the lots. It's a program I'd like to see if we can pull the trigger on it and get agreement how to do it. It can be the quickest and the cleanest, and it's really important to me that the ash from the forest is one thing, but the ash from structures, homes, cars is quite another. And we want to get those off the watersheds. They otherwise they will be. I don't mean to be scaring everybody, but I don't want them draining into the creeks and into Detroit and wherever else it goes. It's really important that we can remove all that. The other thing, if we can get this done, it's the quickest. It could be all cleaned up we've had a story of just a couple months after they start. I don't know if that's reasonable. Just yesterday, we had a presentation from the city administrator from Malibu, California. They'd had a similar fire, much smaller, but she talked about this program working out just as advertised, and we've got to give it a chance. Otherwise, it's going to be helter-skelter. We won't be sure we get it all cleaned up. And I think this is a much better way. The sheriff talked about some illegal dumping. I just don't think we can tolerate that. We want to get these things cleaned up, but it isn't like the stories I'm hearing. This is anecdotal, but pickups going full into the woods and coming back empty. I just can't tolerate it. That leaves those pollutants there for somebody else to deal with, get into the streams we're talking about. And I'm just going to ask if we find any of that going on that is truly be cited both as county ordinance, DEQ, and probably some federal regulation on Forest Service. So we're just not going to tolerate it.
Thank you. Brian, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I do have some additional details on the cleanup program that Commissioner Brentano was just talking about. At Public Works, I know in a lot of different departments, we're getting questions from folks that are frustrated, wanting to know details. And so we're working really aggressively with ODOT and our federal partners to get those details pinned down and out to people as quickly as we can. The state has formed a statewide task force to deal with debris management. So that's the first piece, and that's the two-step program that the commissioner was talking about. This is the same kind of program that other states have done. The two-step process: take care of the household hazardous waste first, get that dealt with, and then look at the larger cleanup effort and pull together a coordinated effort on that as well. So two-step process, like we talked about. The household hazardous waste cleanup, that really just focuses on things like batteries, fuels, chemicals that are there and typically present in every home, regardless of what when the home was built. And that is the first easy step to take care of because we could do it under the existing FEMA authorization. So that's the reason why that's a priority focus right now. So the plan from the state level is they've asked EPA to lead that charge. EPA has done this in a number of other places, so they've got a fairly well worked out program. We are expecting to see boots on the ground mid-October for that first phase of the cleanup effort. We've got insurance from the state. There is no cost to homeowners or insurance providers for that. It is all of that is taken care. All those costs are taken care of in the FEMA program itself. And we, Marion County, we're asking the state to prioritize Santiam Canyon because of the sensitivity of the watershed and the number of, the population that relies on the river for drinking water. So we're working with the state on that aspect of it. Step two, what everybody's calling the ash and trash cleanup, that's the larger effort, really taking care of the bulk of debris from vehicles and homes, that sort of thing, not from timberland, but from those residences and businesses. Still some details to work out on that. FEMA has not yet authorized the funding for that phase of cleanup, and the state and the feds have about another week worth of process to go through to get to that step. So we are in a process, and that's one of the reasons why we don't have all the details until those authorizations are finalized. But the plan is to do a large-scale coordinated cleanup effort across all the counties that are affected. Again, that'd be led either at the state or the federal level with input from the county, so we can help them understand what the priorities are and what our particular needs in the county are. The timeline on that one is not pinned down yet. So we're hearing that once they hit the ground, it's typically, like Commissioner Brentano said, a couple of months on something our size. So, but we won't have those dates until maybe a week from now or so. So there'll be more information coming out about that. All right, to participate in this. So here's a key element where the county is going to be involved. For property owners to participate in this coordinated cleanup effort, we, the county and the state, will need to obtain rights of entry from every property owner. So folks will see the county doing a very concerted effort to get the word out. We'll be canvassing everything we can from direct mailers to everybody's addresses. So if they have their mail forwarded to a new location, it should get to them. We'll be covering social media, all the places where we have services located for emergency response services. We'll have people there and hard copy forms for people to fill out. So there'll be ways of getting your hands on this both electronically as well as hard copy. The big key is if EPA hits the ground mid-October, they want to have this part, the bulk of the rights of entry received by October 16th. So we have a little over 2 weeks to complete that process. So asking people to keep an eye out for that and please respond because we, the county, the state, the feds cannot enter on your property to take care of the household hazardous waste without that right of entry. The right of entry will cover both phases. So it'll give immediate access to take care of the household hazardous waste, and we won't have to come back and ask for additional authorization for the step 2 cleanup. And property owners do have the right to opt out of it. So if they don't want to participate in that program, they can. ODOT is kind of leading the project management portion of the project, so they promised some additional details and information that we can distribute today or tomorrow. That's about the timeline that they are on. If you are an uninsured property owner, this is probably your best route of getting that property cleaned and having it taken care of and not be a long-term liability, because it does become a liability of the owner to clean up those kind of hazardous conditions. So we really are urging people that are uninsured to get those right of entry forms back to us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions we can so they understand the ins and outs of what the program looks like. If you are insured, if you have insurance on your property, we're still encouraging you to participate, because this is the best way of assuring that we can get all of the cleanup done and not have lingering issues. Now, if you're insured and you are ready to rebuild, we're not preventing you from hiring a qualified contractor and starting that process. All the existing DEQ programs are in place. So property owners do have that option, but we're just reminding everybody that there are rules and regulations that need to be followed. And if people contact our building and planning division, we will give them all the basic information they need to know about what the DEQ regulations are, who that qualified list of contractors are, to be able to deal with household hazardous waste and demolition debris. You have to be certified with DEQ. We have that list, so we can provide that to people so they know where to go.
I'm going to interrupt here because you just bring up a point that there's a whole bunch of scams, things happen in all these situations. That certified list is important, but even on that list, there's only a couple places they'll be able to take the ash, and you want to make sure that whatever agreement you have with this contractor is the whole program. You don't want to get left finding you have to clean something else up or have a liability down the road, but it has to be a certified contractor, and you want the complete project outlined and including where the disposal will be and how it's approved.
Very good point. Under federal law, the owner of the property where that waste originates from is responsible all the way through disposal. So you want to choose your contractors carefully and make sure they know what they're doing. Make sure they're reputable contractors.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cameron?
Well, Commissioner just stole my.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
So, no, I just, I want those that are watching is to make sure that, the warning signs are up there, because during these times, there's all kinds of scams out there, and people will say they're certified contractors, and they'll show you some fake ID, or they'll call you. So there's all kinds of email attacks, knocking on doors. I want to really stress that if you go through our planning department, they have a list of certified contractors. If you're doing this on your own, and Sam, you already talked about, you can't take it out and just dump it in a hole someplace, and you're going to get in trouble if you get caught doing that. And
It's not right to begin with.
right.
It's dangerous.
Right. It's very dangerous to our watershed and to the environment. So just want to stress that if you want to move forward, make sure you get the right help and you get the certified contractors to do that. The other thing on the warning is that FEMA's out there, and you're going to get calls from people saying they're from FEMA, and they're going to ask for personal information. Don't do it. They may ask for your last four, your social, but they're not going to ask you for Social Security information and driver's license numbers and all that personal information. So the other thing I want to stress, and Brian's talked about this, is this right of entry form that we have. An example of it here should be out by tomorrow.
That's right.
On our website. If you have not signed up for any of our newsletters in Marion County, there's a newsletter that's specific to the Little North Fork in the Canyon area. You can go into our website and you can put your email on that. And Jolene talked about this morning that they will be using our .gov delivery system. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be next door through the sheriff's office. There'll be all kinds of information on where to go get these right of entry forms. And I believe the faster we can get those returned in the watershed area, because when DEQ comes in to clean up, the efficiency of having, you know, a whole block or a whole city with these right of entry forms already filled out and complete, DEQ can just move right down the road and get that hazardous waste out. So I want to encourage people in Marion County that have been impacted by these fires to fill those out. Even if your house wasn't destroyed, you had some building go down or whatever, fill that out and get it back in. And just a little update. Since last Wednesday, we were, with the sheriff's people and ODOT, we were allowed back into Detroit. The first time was last Friday. I was able to go into Detroit with my fellow citizens. I'm a full-time resident up there. Spent the whole day, pretty emotional day. 2 o'clock, we had a time of community discussion and prayer at the church that's burnt down, but the sign's still there. It was a pretty emotional day for many people. So that was Friday, and people have been going back into Detroit. Idana people are moved back into their homes, and that's why the sheriff has got them 7:30. There's actually people living back in Idana because they have water, their power's back on, they're in their homes, but they need to get down and have a full day so they can shop, et cetera, in town. So that's the 7:30 route. Thank you, Sheriff, for pushing ODOT to get that done. And again, I want to compliment ODOT for moving things along quickly for the citizens. On Saturday, I was able to visit Gates and Mill City with both their mayors. Friday was Mayor Trett in Detroit. Saturday was both their mayors in Gates and Mill City and some of their citizens. And we had Senators Merkley and Wyden there and FEMA there, so they were answering some questions and getting much more questions than we probably had answers to. And so we're continuing to move down that path and getting the answers to those people. But I just, right now, stress, get the right of entry forms in so EPA can come in and do that cleanup. And then obviously step 2 will be the, as we call it, the ash and trash. So then people will be able to start to really look at rebuilding. So that's what I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sergeant Landers, do we have any questions this morning?
The one question that was submitted was around where to find the right of access and entry forms. Appreciate Commissioner Cameron to make sure that was out there, included. But just to reiterate, it's going to be available on the Marion County website, as well as they'll be mailed out to available folks here within the next few days. So
Good, okay. Thank you. Well, if there's no other questions, then we'll conclude. Thank you.
Don't you wish I...